Township Council. Carol?
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for individuals serving our nation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
Amen. Okay, Carol, if you could please call the roll.
Mr. Hurd?
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Phelan?
Here.
Ms. Winterfield? Here. Mayor Florence Lynch?
Here. Okay, first item on the agenda is presentations, and we have a few presentations this evening. The first one I'd like to start with is a proclamation that we're going to read into the record, and I invite the Suburban Women's Club of Pompton Plains Township Council. Carol?
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for individuals serving our nation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
Amen. Okay, Carol, if you could please call the roll.
Mr. Hurd?
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Phelan?
Here.
Ms. Winterfield? Here. Mayor Florence Lynch?
Here. Okay, first item on the agenda is presentations, and we have a few presentations this evening. The first one I'd like to start with is a proclamation that we're going to read into the record, and I invite the Suburban Women's Club of Pompton Plains to stand up with me and with the council so we can read this in. Thank you. If anyone else on the council want to join us? I always like to invite the council to stand up here with me when we do something like this, because the Suburban Women's Club, you women are tremendous. I'm going to stand up here so people can see you all. The Suburban Women's Club of Pompton Plains, I welcome you all. We also have with us the state president of the Suburban Women's Club here with us today. And they're an integral part of our community, as we know. 70 years, over 70 years they've been working in our community. They aid our communities with monetary donations to the libraries and the food pantries, provide scholarships to students, and the list goes on. They also aid local organizers to help bring awareness about serious issues to our communities that provide education through public outreach. And in February, they were here. We had recognized them for bringing forth recognition of February being National Teen Dating Violence Awareness and Prevention Month, and we are recognizing them again for the month of April. One of their state projects that they just have been working on is to make aware April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. So I have a proclamation to read into the record, and I want to thank you, the Suburban Women's Club, for all your hard work. And after I read the proclamation into the record, you can also let us know what else you are doing with the project if you like. Okay. Whereas we all have a responsibility as individuals, neighbors, community members, and citizens of Pequannock Township to help create healthy, nurturing, and safe experiences for children. And whereas healthy and safe childhoods help produce confident and successful adults. And whereas child abuse and neglect often occur when people find themselves in stressful situations without community resources and don't know how to cope. And whereas incidences of child abuse and neglect can be reduced by making sure all families have the support they need and deserve to raise their children in a healthy environment. And whereas it is recognized that no person can do everything, but that everyone can do something, and together we can create change for the better. And whereas effective prevention programs succeed because of partnerships among nonprofit organizations, government agencies, volunteer organizations, schools, service clubs, houses of worship, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And whereas displaying a pinwheel or planting a pinwheel garden in April will serve as a positive reminder that all children deserve great childhoods that are happy, healthy, and safe. Now therefore, on behalf of the Township of Pequannock and its residents, Mayor Melissa Florence Lynch and members of the Township Council do hereby proclaim April 2017 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Pequannock Township and urge all citizens to engage in activities that strengthen families and communities to provide the optimal environment and children to learn, grow, and thrive so that all children have the benefit of happy, healthy, and safe childhoods. So I thank you all. Does anybody want to speak on behalf of the club on how with the state project?
Everybody looked at you.
I'm sorry.
Let's see how good I am at this now. Well, we do support Prevent Child Abuse New Jersey, an organization who does a lot of work to prevent child abuse. And we help with a lot of fundraising, and the next fundraiser we have is a river cruise up Tom's River.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun. We did have one in the fall or some time ago, and it was a lot of fun. And we also, we participated recently in a Halloween mall walk, and that was down the shore also, and all the little kids got dressed up, and we provided candies, and that was a lot of fun for those who attended. And one big thing is we do provide purple baby hats for newborn babies. Help me out with the crying syndrome. Is that for the purple crying syndrome? And when they came to our convention, our yearly convention that we have every year, they were quite surprised with the response that they got and the amount of baby hats they're getting. So it's a good group, it really is, and they're doing a lot of good work.
Well, I thank you. I'm sorry if I put you on the spot.
That's
You did a
okay.
great job. But thank you, and thanks for bringing awareness to the community. And I thank you
It
very
really
much.
is important. Thank you.
Congrats.
Fran is our chairman, so if you can.
Here's the proclamation. Do you want a picture with
Yes,
everyone?
please.
You think you can all squeeze in? You might have to go double row. Do you need double rows, or can you get them all in? Can you get us all
Well,
in?
your camera kind of to get
Oh, yes.
I'm going to go sideways.
Yes?
Good?
That's it.
No, I don't need to have one. Oh, I have an old-fashioned camera, I'm sorry. It's all good. Still takes a picture. Yeah.
Proclamation for prevent child abuse.
Okay. Thank you very much, ladies. Okay, next on the agenda, we have Jeff Gilman here from Newbridge Services, and Jeff is going to give us an update on what Newbridge has been up to.
I'm going to read from the text in order to keep the time to it, and I don't want to extrapolate. So
Okay.
if you have questions, Parker will be here in a little while. He was down in Trenton, working with the government to try to see if we can ease some issues that are going to be coming up in 2018's fiscal year.
Okay.
So here we go. Madam Mayor, members of the council, and members of the public in attendance, I am pleased to appear before you to give you an update regarding Newbridge Services. At present, Newbridge is an agency quite unlike the operation started almost 60 years ago as Pequannock Valley Mental Health Center. We are a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. Monies received to run the agency are from the federal government, Medicare and Medicaid, the state, the Division of Health and Human Services, the county, both Morris and some from Passaic, grants, insurance companies as reimbursement for patient care, and fundraising events such as the annual gala and golf tournament, as well as donations from the public at large. To help provide you with the length and breadth of the agency, I have a short PowerPoint presentation. You can follow along and make notes on the handout. You now can peek. I told them they couldn't peek until so.
Jeff, can I borrow a pen so I can take notes?
We have no pens. I have one that says AZRAC Law on it. Would you like? No,
No, you can do that one.
Aid rather, and outreach. I put in here a slide regarding where we get our money from. It's approximately $3.8 million a year, and as you can see, the huge amount of money that we receive from the state and from Medicaid. The rest of it is minor in comparison. Treating mental illness and addiction. Anxiety, depression, stress, anger, substance abuse are among the illnesses that our licensed and skilled professionals treat. Newbridge provides individual, group, and family counseling on a non-judgmental setting. Mental illness and addiction are treatable, and stigma is often the biggest barrier to people seeking help. Prevention and education. Newbridge teaches more than 5,000 school children to deal with bullies, stand up to peer pressure, and recognize suicidal thoughts in themselves and friends. Newbridge provides parents and educators training in suicide prevention, self-care, and dealing with student stress. Newbridge offers mental health first aid training to teach the public how to respond to a mental health crisis. Mary Vinus will be here at a later presentation, I think in April, and talk particularly about the prevention and education program. Newbridge Jobs Plus. This is a little bit outside the scope of what you would think is a normal Newbridge program, but it's a huge success. Newbridge's alternative education program has helped well over 1,000 young adults earn their high school diplomas and prepare for college, trade schools, and career. It is free to residents of Morris, Sussex, and Warren counties, and transportation is provided in Morris County. The program started in 1983 and has a nearly 90% success rate. And the reason why we call it Jobs Plus, as an aside, is once they come in the program, it's either trade school, college, junior college, or work. That's how you get out of the program. So we really put a lot of emphasis on graduating into something. The Newbridge SAIL program, SAIL stands for Senior Assistance for Independent Living. The program was developed to help seniors maximize their independence. Newbridge SAIL connects residents of Morris and Upper Passaic County age 60 and over with community service to help them remain in their homes. The free programs include medical evaluations and case management. For people who are homebound, Newbridge at Home provides in-home counseling. Newbridge Housing, represented by, there's 2 levels, but you have it down the street here as well. Newbridge has been providing housing for people with special needs since 1980. To date, Newbridge has created more than 200 places for people to call home. The housing program grew out of Newbridge's belief that individuals living with mental illness and disabilities and those with other special needs can succeed in the community with safe, affordable housing and support services. Then our day program, which is up the turnpike a bit. Newbridge created day programs for individuals with persistent and chronic mental illness who require more intensive care. The programs provide structure and help participants develop life skills with a goal of increased independence. Psychological first aid. When natural disasters and tragedies strike a community, Newbridge is there. Newbridge's state-certified disaster response crisis counselors help people cope, and they identify those who need follow-up services. A little aside on this, if there's a death in a high school or an elementary school, we're called. We're there with counselors. 9/11, we were called. We were at a specific place with counselors. So this psychological first aid and the crisis people are very important to keeping things on an even keel for those who are affected. Outreach. Newbridge is committed to raising awareness about mental illness and addiction, reducing stigma, and ensuring sufficient funding is available so all people can receive treatment, no matter their ability to pay. The sufficient funding, however, is at risk. So this normally is where we'll do a presentation to a community or whatever, and we'll say, hey, we'd like some money. But every day Newbridge is there for you and your loved ones, your neighbors, and your community. Your support has been the power to transform lives, helping people overcome adversity and get them on a path to a brighter future. Please become a donor today. Now, that's the end of the slide presentation almost. Now, before I get to part 2, I know you might have some questions. Parker is still yet to arrive, so if we can put off that until he may arrive, because he may have more answers than I do. But I would like to take a minute to discuss our 2018 funding. The whole model that we have been operating on under decades has been turned on its head by Governor Christie. His edict that mental health services would no longer be paid on the basis of a monthly advance that is reconciled, did not use it all, then give it back. But now will be fee-for-service, where the state reimburses us for providing services after the fact, which means that Newbridge will have to float between $1 million and $2 million in cash to cover outlays until reimbursement is made. That's an absolutely astounding number, and we're not the only nonprofit who's faced with this. Many of them are saying, we have to close our doors. We can't exist. We can't wait for the reimbursement. This also assumes that if we bill for X dollars, we'll get back X dollars, but noises we hear are less than X dollars will be reimbursed. So therefore, we're going to be going in a hole. It is estimated by the New Jersey Mental Health Association that tens of thousands of patients will be affected statewide. This was supposed to be implemented in fiscal 16, but the opposition was so strong it was postponed twice and will be enacted for fiscal 18 July 1 as part of the governor's budget. His message basically so far has been, from his level, not people below him, is do or die. That's just the way he is. So what we don't want to do is do this. We don't want to get angry. We don't want to carry ourselves and just go berserk. We want this to be approached in a very logical way. Fee-for-service has been tried in 4 states and has been a failure with significant rise in untreated mental illness and a very big impact on hospital emergency rooms, which generally ill-prepared to handle the mentally ill with or without addiction issues. Who does Chilton call if there's an issue? After calling the psychiatrist on call, who may take 2 or 3 days to deal with the patient, they call us. But if our door is closed or we don't get reimbursement, we don't have the funds, we're not going to be there. The other impact, interestingly enough, is on jails. Nationwide, the estimated number of mentally ill inmates in jails is approximately 40% that are suffering from mental illness. The Morris County Jail, with approximately 226 inmates, the capacity is approximately 525. The warden agreed that his population is also in that 40% range, and he has 1 full-time mental health counselor to handle the load. Now, it's exacerbated with bail reform because the criminal population in the jails is actually falling. But the percentage of inmates with mental illness are actually rising. They don't have a place to go. State hospitals are full. Where are they going to put them? So they put them in jail. Agencies like ours, up and down the state, have issued dire warnings that they will close their doors or significantly reduce staff, or have very long wait times, even for emergency clients. Morris County, our home county, was so alarmed by the impact of fee-for-service that they'd issued a resolution, which is on your back page. All freeholders voted in favor of this, urged the governor not to implement fee-for-service. Parker, come on over here.
He's trying to...
It's all right. It's all right. The legislature, also alarmed with dire predictions, created a watchdog group to see how fee-for-service proceeds and step in before too much damage is done. But, to use the analogy, by then the horse is already out of the barn. I am asking this council to do what freeholders did. Issue a resolution to be sent to the governor, because I can assure you that your constituents within this community are going to be impacted either directly as a client or indirectly as a caregiver or relative. The national average of people who have mental illness is 1 in 4. Our town is no different. Approximately 1 in 4 of our people has some sort of mental health issue. Lastly, I can't give you the percentage of the 8,500 people we serve who are residents of Pequannock Township. We are trying to data mine those figures, but our systems are many, and capturing that data and keeping it HIPAA violation free is a task in itself. However, Newbridge started here and grew here, from here, into what we are now. However, we do see or serve a lot of residents of this community who are on fixed incomes and or without insurance, who we see on a sliding fee scale or for free. One last request, and this is a big one, besides issuing the resolution, is that council return to a practice of supporting Newbridge. This time, however, you did support Newbridge in the past. I don't remember the date that we stopped. This time, however, the funds would be restricted to pay for unreimbursed services for a resident. The amount we are asking for is $10,000, which all, part, or none could be used. I could go on forever about what's going on with healthcare in the United States and how it impacts us locally. Everybody knows the vote. Everybody knows about Obamacare, which I prefer to call the Affordable Care Act. But we're caught in that vice along with everybody else. It's interesting to note, and I included in your packet a quote from Rodney Frelinghuysen, who's chairman of the Appropriations Committee. He was not in favor of voting for that bill, and he wasn't the only Republican who felt the pressure from the constituents of their district that if they did, their position would be in danger in the next congressional election. Thank you for allowing me to do this update. If you have any specific questions, our CEO is here. I will make sure that he doesn't carry on too long, but if there's any particular question, he's been fighting the battle of making sure this fee-for-service is somehow or another postponed forever. Right? Any questions from anybody?
Jeff, thank you. I was going to say, we appreciate Newbridge, and I'm delighted that you came to, give us an update on what you're doing, because you guys, do a lot. So it's something that the council should take into consideration. I guess your request is for 2018?
Correct.
Okay.
Because we've already done our budget for this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, this should be fiscal 2017.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I'm looking for fiscal 2018.
So 2018, that's something I see Chris diligently writing, so that's something that we will...
So Jeff,
So just...
Did anybody have questions?
Fire Dave, give
Jeff?
me the money.
I do.
I think Ryan does.
Ryan, why don't we start with Ryan?
And also the resolution, which I feel is extremely important. You would be following in the footsteps of Morris County's free
I think you would support that.
So with that, I will sign off, as they say, and make room for whoever's going to be up here next.
All right, I'm going to ask the council people that would like to
I have
ask
a question.
questions. Go ahead, Ryan.
Jeff, quick question. So the 10,000, how would you guys use the 10,000 since your budget is about $3 million a year, 3.2 million?
No, it's our total budget's like 13.8.
Okay.
No, all we would do is, when we recognize that we have a Pequannock Township resident who we provide or could provide services for, who cannot be reimbursed through any other source, whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, their insurance, a bronze plan, which with a high deductible, whatever it happens to be. If we provide the services, we would then bill for the appropriate amount and take it from that. Send a bill to the council would send us the money.
How far can 10,000?
We haven't got a clue.
Dave, they got to start somewhere.
Really? I mean,
Not a lot of people that are uninsured and not able to pay.
okay.
Because we will be accepting Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance. The problem with private insurance is the bronze plan. If I'm working at a quick check, I might be making $40,000, $45,000 if I'm lucky. And gratefully, I have a health insurance plan, but you know what? I pay rent. My husband, I'm not sure where he is anymore. I have 2 kids.
Bob, come up.
And I make $35,000. I'm really happy to have health insurance because everyone wants it. But I pay rent. I have 2 children in school that need sneakers. And to reach a $4,000 or $5,000 deductible, which Newbridge used to be able to waive for 40 years, can no longer waive it based on the system that we will get paid only by services rendered. So if I see you have a deductible of $4,000, you need, unfortunately, to pay me out of pocket until you get your deductible. And not only, and at $4,000, if you go 4 weeks, which is pretty typical if you're in depression or family issues, our fee is $150. That's $600 a month out of your pocket before you reach your $6,000 deductible. And once you reach that, then you have to pay your insurance copay. That could be $25, $50. And again, for 40 years, we would see you if you couldn't pay it. That's the significance of what's going on. So the idea that, that everyone has insurance, everyone can get treatment, is really doing a disservice to our working poor. So the idea of setting up a pot for people from Pequannock Township to pay, unfortunately, that $150, or we could negotiate it to be $100, but we'd have to get something because we want to keep our doors open for those who need it. So it's a unique thought that Jeff put together. I also want to say that if this council were to pass such a resolution, you would be the first of the 539 municipalities. We would get a lot of press for you because you would be in the leadership of local support of a moratorium on this until we can figure it out, which is what basically the freeholders are saying. And we could then promote that to the other 538 municipalities, which is what we're doing with the 21 freeholder boards. We're holding it up, we're walking around, and we're saying you have to step up because the state money is my money. The county money is my money as a taxpayer, and when the jails go up, I have to pay for that jail out of my tax dollars. If state hospitalizations happen and no one knows this, the county pays 15% of the $200,000 or $300,000 of that stay at Greystone. And the emergency rooms, I'm sure Jeff touched on, are already over 50% of people with presenting mental illness. That's only going to increase. If they can't get into Newbridge for a doctor, if they can't get into Newbridge because they're on the verge of suicide, which of course we would see on a crisis, but we couldn't see forever, they're going to walk into an emergency room. And they're not equipped. They don't want them.
So Parker, hello? Hello? Hi.
Sorry. I heard your voice.
Oh, that's
You have a very good sound system, or I need psychiatric treatment.
It's a new sound system. That was fun.
Right. I don't think the council has a problem doing a resolution. However, I think there's going to be a problem with the 10,000. I would have to think long and hard about that, because where do you start drawing the line? Now, maybe we should have the doctor's office. We should do the same thing for the doctor's office. So you see where the problem. You see where the problem comes in. Newbridge does a great service. I've been to many of your functions, but where do you draw the line? I mean, we'd have to think hard and very hard about it. 10,000 is not a lot of money in the scheme of things, but we start setting a precedent. So, my suggestion to you would be come back and talk to us in the fall of next year before we go into our budget meetings, and then maybe we could do something. But off the top of my head, I'm going to say, for me, I would have to vote no, simply because you're opening up Pandora's box here. You really are.
Rich, I think you're making a really good point. I just think it's a good thought and another way for us to take care of our citizens here.
Right, I agree with you. That's why I said
your point is well taken.
You have to.
And unfortunately, it's real. The only slight difference is mental health is very intense.
Yes, I know.
You have to come 4 times a month, maybe see a doctor. If I have a stomach virus, I go see my doctor, it might only be $150 that month. So there's a slight difference in gaining access and participating, but I'm not going to fight you on it. We will be here next year. And also next year, next fall. But next year we will also have some experience that we could share with you.
Okay.
Which really makes it real.
That would be great.
This is kind of a concept that we haven't proven. It's something that we suggested, to the council to consider.
Again, I don't think there's a problem with us doing a resolution.
Yeah, the resolution would be extremely valuable, important, and again, headlines as much as we can.
We're not looking for the headlines.
I know, but you would be in the leadership role. Pequannock, as always, would be in the leadership role. There is no township
Take it easy.
that has done what this one is.
We could start talking to some of
No, but
our,
Pequannock, I mean,
neighboring-
think about it. You got people with mental illness on the turnpike here in Crossroads. You got people with mental illness living right here on the main drag on Alexander. You have people living over the deli. You have a whole group of people over on Evans Place, and this township has embraced that. That's phenomenal.
Okay,
That's phenomenal.
we get it.
before you go away, I think,
Before you go away.
I think Councilwoman Winterfield had some questions.
Well, you touched a lot upon it, but I was curious about, the business model, and some of it was answered about the insurance, and that's why, you said you support the Affordable Care Act, but I'm really concerned about that with the high deductibles, it's not working, obviously, because that's what you're saying right here, and that's what's happened with the Affordable Care Act, is that people have insurance, but they can't use it because of the deductibles. So I'm concerned about what Rich said about setting a precedent, because there's people in town who can't afford their taxes to be any higher than what it is, and we do everything we can to keep our taxes from. And then there's very wealthy people in town who can afford, and maybe an outreach as far as strict donations direct from the people who can afford it to you is something that we can support and endorse and help with, rather than tax everybody so that we can give a straight donation to you. I mean, what you do is phenomenal.
Our donation base is extremely good.
And a lot of it comes from Pequannock.
Yeah.
Well, a lot could be better because, I mean,
We try every, 30,000 here, another, we have an angel who gives a significant amount of cash to us. We don't know how long that's going to last. But besides the insurance and the bronze plan, Medicaid was under severe threat with the revised, the Republican plan that they didn't get passed. But nobody gave Medicaid much of a thought. And I'd just like to add some statistics to this so people realize how important Medicaid is. Medicaid now provides medical care to 4 out of 10 American children. It covers the cost of nearly half of all births in the United States. It pays for the care of 2/3 of the people in nursing homes. It provides for 10 million children and adults with physical and mental disabilities. For states, it accounts for 60% of federal funding, meaning that cuts hurt not only poor and middle-class families caring for their children with autism or dying parents, but also, interestingly enough, on-ratings. The program is so woven in the nation's fabric that in 2015, almost 2/3 of Americans in a poll by the Kaiser Family Foundation said they were either covered by Medicaid or had a family member or friend who was. Now, if there's no more, I'll just end with my favorite little old lady somewhere in southern Ohio who, when asked about Medicare, said, "I love my Medicare. Tell the government to stay out of my medical business." And that was a quote from one of the reporters who was interviewing.
And again, our senior outreach, keeping people living in their own homes, there's no charge. For kids that have dropped out of school that have want to turn their lives around, there's no charge. Our education in the school districts and coalitions and responding to emergencies like floods, we don't charge. It's really just that very small but very significant part around treating mental illness. And we're very proud of this township, obviously.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, anybody else? We're good? All right, next up is our final presentation with our township engineer, Joe Golden. We're going to invite Joe up, and he's going to go through our elevation action plan for
No, this table.
For our houses.
Table belongs to the township. I don't want them to buy a new one.
Is there, oh, that little one.
However, the board multiple outlet is.
going to take a few minutes to set up, so I don't know if you want to take a break or...
Nope.
Okay, another topic?
To the public if you want.
Or do the volunteers?
Either, do the volunteer.
All right, I'll tell you what, I see some volunteers from our committees and stuff, so maybe we can go into that. We'll do our reports from our volunteers. So at this time, we're going to skip over the presentation, and if anybody would like to give a committee report, I see John DeRisi in the back. You want me to start here with Tom? All right, Tom, Andrea, you can start. Come on up and give us your report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Tom Andreas, 6 Elm Road, Pompton Plains, Secretary of the Environmental Commission. I wanted to thank Kathy Winterfield, our Deputy Mayor, for going to ANJAC training over the weekend. ANJAC is Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions, and Saturday she went to about 4 hours of training on effective environmental commissions. So as our liaison, now she'll be in a great shape, right, to know what we can do, so we're in trouble now.
Oh, I have lots of questions now for the next meeting.
But we really appreciate you going for that training to learn more about environmental commissions, so thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, next, John DeRisi. Do you want to come up and give a report on economic development? And we also have Paul.
Hello, Mayor and Council.
This is backup. That's
Okay.
I have Mr. Domofowski with me here, over here, for moral support. My name is John DeRisi. I'm the chair of the Economic Development Committee. We've been going, I was here about a month and a half ago, just a quick update about what we're doing. And sorry, I'm going to read some of this so I don't forget anything. We are actually having speakers come to our meeting. So last meeting we had our esteemed engineer, Mr. Joe Golden, come because we just want to kind of find out about the flood zone maps, what they are, what they were, where they're going, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess our biggest concern is, and what came up is, I think the town is trying to put together a plan or a report to go to the congressman or go to somebody to see if we can push somebody to make a decision. Because right now, basically, 3/4 of our Route 23 corridor we can't do anything with, which is hurting all of us. So the committee strongly encourages us to kind of get moving on that if we can. We're trying to have more reports, more subcommittees as part of our committee. So the mayor spoke about with the council. Glenn came with the township, and we have other subcommittees that we're starting to form some more of. We discussed the 2 downtown areas that we have and looking into, different types of redevelopment that we can do, in connection with what other towns are doing. And leading into Melissa, Glenn, and myself, we had a meeting with Megan Huntsler from the Morris County Economic Committee.
Development Corporation.
Development Corporation, is that what it is? All right, we had met with her probably about a year and a half ago, but now we're trying to push that because they have a lot of resources that we think we can use in town. So we definitely want to engage her more. She has some subcommittees as part of her organization that we can talk to about market analysis, about RFPs for redevelopment, et cetera. So we're going to continue to look into that. Like I had mentioned before, we're trying to form more small subcommittees to get everybody engaged. Glenn from the town had brought up a parklets idea, so we have a couple members looking at that to come back and give us a report. I have asked a couple of committee members to take a look at what really makes a good downtown. It's retail, it's public space, it's maybe office, maybe some residential, et cetera. So we're going to have, a report monthly about that. I had asked the mayor about trying to get some professionals in town that are like in marketing and advertising. So we maybe can form a subcommittee off the EDC to look into creating a brochure for the township, kind of promote our town. Some of the members have passed around what other towns have done, videos, pamphlets, et cetera. So I think that would be a good idea. Just, I'm not quite sure how to set that up, but we can maybe talk about doing that. We're also having speakers, probably every other meeting. Next month, we are having Michael Fabio Fabrizio. I'm not good with these Italian names. He's sorry, Lou. He's part of the redevelopment bid committee in Pompton Lakes. We met him a couple times already, but we're going to try to kind of push that and find out more what they're doing. They've been doing this a long time, so it's a lot of information there. And then the last item is in talking with Megan and a couple other people, including third party through Mike. We would like to request that. I know you're talking about the budget and trying to finalize that. We would like to request to put some money aside for this market study, planning study, et cetera, that we've been talking about for a while, but we're trying to push now. Everybody feels about $200,000 is a good number for that. It should be, from what I understand, a capital expenditure. I'm going to get you some more information, maybe get something in writing, but I know you were talking about the budget tonight, so I kind of wanted to put it in there. Paul, if you want to add anything about that?
Could I ask a question? Did you say $200,000?
Yeah, we just said.
Yes.
We just said no to 10. Now you're asking for 200.
No, one of the
Well, I
things,
wasn't here, so.
we have allocated some money.
Not 200,000.
Not 200. But one of the things I just brought up to
If you
Chris.
don't ask, you don't get it, right?
One of the things that I asked Chris to do, and it's something that the committee can do as well with help, is I believe if we did some research, we could probably find some grants that you can actually, that can help with the market study projects and whatnot. But we did allocate some money. I've asked Chris to look into some grant opportunities. It's something we can discuss with these meetings.
Okay.
But I bet you, there
But
might be
I just
some
think
opportunities.
if we're really
there.
serious about this, we have to put some money aside, and 10, 15,000 honestly is not going to cut it. It's either we're going to do it or not do it, and this is me talking. And that was kind of the last thing that I wanted to do is, do we have a grant writer in town to look at some of this stuff? Because I know it's kind of a specialty thing. There's people that do this for a living. Who?
The handsome
A lot of people over here.
We do have some people that do it, but we don't have a grant writer per se. But
Maybe we can
have-
look into doing that, maybe
Right.
as part of maybe a consultant for the town, because like you mentioned, there's a lot of money out there, you just got to know where to find it.
Exactly.
I, for one, don't know where to find it.
Right, exactly.
Other than that, any other questions for me?
I do.
Besides just start throwing darts?
Go ahead.
Two questions. What was the date for the meeting with Fabrizio?
It's the fourth Wednesday of next month at 7:30.
So that'd be
Right
like
here.
the 19th, correct?
No, I don't think it's the
Yes.
Fourth Wednesday?
I don't have my phone.
Fourth
26.
Wednesday of
Yes.
April.
26. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll maybe, I was going to send, I always send the agenda out to Carol, so maybe she can distribute it around, so if anybody
Sure.
wanted to come. Because also, I think we're going to have one of the realtors involved in the whole Pompton Lakes redevelopment thing come too.
Yeah,
Somebody else had set that up. Nicole from our committee, I've asked her to kind of line up some speakers, so.
Yeah, there's two
I
people
think
for
we're gonna
next
have
month.
Two
Right.
next month.
And then the 200,000. That's a great number. No, but give me an idea of so where did that come from, and what would it look like? What would it do?
That number comes from Megan, who's done this with a number of towns and talked to a number of towns already. She also asked Michael from Pompton Lakes, what's a good number? That's the same number he had. What that would involve is hiring like a third-party planner, somebody like H2M or Mazer or Burgess, et cetera. They would basically come in here, take a look at everything our town has in the commercial district areas. Paul can probably speak better on this because he's done this. And just kind of look at our retail, look what we have, tell us what areas are good for redevelopment, tell us what areas are not, tell us what other towns are doing similar to ours. Like, I mean, Pompton Lakes ideas of redevelopment are probably a little bit big for us, or some of them are really big for us.
Different.
So it's like we need kind of a professional to tell us kind of what we can do that will fit.
Okay.
So that's what that's for.
Just to help you answer that question, I know I serve a few municipalities. Lincoln Park went through something similar in the state of New Jersey through Congresswoman DeCroce. was kind enough to get some state planners to do some of the work for them.
Really?
So that's something that Pequannock could consider.
Right.
But they did have to put some money aside in the budget to take care of certain things, consultants like myself, to do some mapping and things along those lines, you know. So the $200,000 is if you ship the whole thing out to the
Do you have any idea how much?
World. Excuse me?
Do you have any idea how much Lincoln Park budgeted for it?
I don't recall that exact number. It was nowhere near 200,000.
No.
But then, so
We have
what
a
we're
good
talking
start.
about, what we're talking about is different than a bid that Pumpkin Lakes did.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we're set up, or nor do we want to do a bid.
bid type
We
project,
kind of
right.
want to maybe look into some redevelopment, but not get involved with the whole bid process. I think that's a little bit.
And this is also a phased type of study, so you
Of
don't spend
course.
the 200,000 right off the bat. You
Oh, shucks.
start with A and then move on to B.
Start with 10,000, right?
There you go.
Yeah, you could with some farm stuff.
So guaranteed results, right?
We put a nice little figure in there.
Well, you know, you do have an opportunity.
You woke everyone up.
I know Pequannock Township was considering hiring a planner, out of the planning office.
Correct.
You know, for someone that deals with that office a lot, you do have a void there from a personnel end of it. And when you're interviewing or your manager's back, you can certainly interview with that in mind. You know, that they have those
Absolutely.
qualifications. So
That'd be a great idea.
Yeah, I think that's something on the horizon. We're just waiting till we get a little further along so we have
So John.
something to work with.
Nobody
Yeah.
fell off their chair, so I mean, that's good.
I'm proud.
Right?
I'll go for it.
We appreciate
Thank you.
We
Thank you.
appreciate the update. Okay. And Joe, you're up.
Thank you. I guess, is it too bright or good?
The one lights,
You're pulling out the wick.
I'm here pretty much today, was asked to come in and discuss the elevation action plan, which I shall do. I think everybody knows me, I'm doing the introductions. Independent of figuring out each one's here. Okay, so I'm here for the elevation action plan. I want to just roll a lot of this really into the insurance programs, the NFIP, which most people should be familiar with, and hazard mitigation grant programs. The township had applied for some grants, and we did receive some. So there was a process that was gone through to get the grant, which is really what the elevation plan is an offshoot from. So what we started out doing in preparation from the grant is we contacted a firm, Tetra Tech, which the town has worked with a lot. They're not here with us, they weren't able to make it today. But they specialize in doing grants for FEMA, and helping communities build their grant application to be successful. So the first thing they asked us to do was to identify, or we asked them to do, I should say, is to identify all the properties in the municipality that are in flood-prone areas, and that would be helped by some financial assistance. So they created some maps. We created a geographic information system based on essentially overlaying the floodplain areas over the township map, and we're able to identify the parcels. The next step was the planning stage. In the report, it does talk about working together with myself, Township Manager Dave, Chris, as far as understanding the community, understanding where we've had flood problems, work with Bob Grant, our construction official, to find out where a lot of money's been spent, and to try to identify how to put a good package together. So I'm going to get into what a good package is all about, but that was the planning section really, getting into the HMA grant process, and then an action plan for us to be successful, for the community to be successful in getting the grants. Some of you may know we did receive positive feedback for the 2015 grant cycle. That money is going to be released very shortly, and we're actually looking to have a kickoff meeting to start that entire process in about 2 weeks. So 2015 monies, in case people are wondering what's going on, well, it's taken till now for the 2015 monies to be made available. So we're moving on that. We did receive a positive word really on the 2016 funding cycle, and I think we were approved by the state of New Jersey. They approve it, and then it gets moved up to FEMA for them to do a final review. But once it's recommended by New Jersey to FEMA, unless there's a problem with our grant application, we would expect to be successful. So that's it. So those are really the steps. And from that, what we learned really is identifying these properties, putting the grant process, putting the grant together for the best success really wasn't just pick the most often flooded properties. And I know there was a lot of talk about that. People say, well, why don't you just take all the SRL, severe repetitive loss properties, and put them into your grant application? That is one of the items that they use on their list. However, that's got to be rolled into all the other priorities they have. And one of them, there we go. Here's the priorities. The first priority doesn't apply to Pequannock. Second priority, without getting everybody to read this, I just went to a seminar and said, don't put up a lot of words in there because everybody would read it and nobody would be paying attention. So that's a good thing. Nobody will hear me. Second priority, and in the listing, is to have them as many SRL properties as we can. So obviously that was high in the scoring. Third priority is the most repetitive loss properties. Fourth priority was properties that had 4 or more separate NFIP insurance claims, yet they didn't qualify as repetitive loss or severe repetitive loss. And the fifth one, which is what started to drive where everybody was confused and why we weren't following item number 2 here with the most SRL properties, is that they wanted to have properties, the largest number of contiguous NFIP properties. So what I mean by that, what they mean by that is, if you have a community that has 20 properties, 10 SRLs and 5 RL properties, and another community that's got similar numbers, but we're going to cluster together, in other words, you're doing the entire neighborhood, then you're going to get the extra points. What we were advised is because of the highly competitive nature of the grants, we really weren't in a position to lose points based on the fact that we don't have the clusters. If we lose the points of not having the clusters, because everybody's putting in very strong applications, there's a high probability that we would get moved out of that, out of being successful. So that was really the fifth parameter, and that's what led to a lot of the final decisions on what we were going to do. So let me move to that. Once we identified the properties, we created a scoring criteria, because what we wanted to do is, okay, now we know where all these properties are. We have a map that I'll show you later that shows be speckled all around all the different spots and properties that have had NFIP claims. How are we going to score them? How are we going to pull our clusters together and make a final decision? So what the consultant did is they came up with a prioritization and a scoring system to apply to each individual property. Number 1 is, are you in the flood area and or are you in a floodway? So if you were in the floodway, they gave it an extra point. Again, same thing. When FEMA looks at SRL, et cetera, if you're in a floodway, it gets you more points. As everybody knows, we're having an expanded floodway on paper right now, so we took advantage of that and actually did the mapping and applied for properties and gave them points for being in a floodway, even though we know we'd like to get a lot of those folks out of the floodway. So that gave us a good score right there. Then there's the Big Waters status and all the different claims. Back to what I had on the priority list. So the SRL properties got a 3, RL a 2. The repetitive claim one, which was the fourth one down, got 1 point. And if there's no policy, no loss, then you got 0 points. And why that's in there is there are some homes already that were built up or elevated or made so that essentially the base flood elevation was below your first floor, or actually you just didn't have any losses. And then they went into this much more detailed scoring as far as the SRLs, what the losses were, what the value of the loss was over and above. And without getting into too much detail, essentially at the end of the day we have to do a cost-benefit ratio. If you have a positive cost-benefit ratio, again, you pass the next test for FEMA. So we have to prove that all the monies that are going to be needed to do, for example, we're doing elevations, if I didn't say that, to elevate all these structures, the savings for a flood event or multiple flood events has to exceed the amount of monies that they would be paying out in claims. So we have to have a positive cost-benefit ratio, and the higher that number is, obviously, the better we are. And of course, the last item is unique flood events, et cetera, and they identify it too. So what we get out of that, and I'm going through this rather quick, so if anybody wants to slow me down, I didn't want to make this an hour presentation, is to develop what we call hotspot mapping or thematic mapping. I tend to call it thematic mapping. So what is a thematic map if you don't know, or hotspots? You assign a color and an intensity to each parcel. And then what you do is you expand upon that, and the computer software will do an analysis, whereas the highest cluster of scoring properties are, the darker it would show up on a map. So essentially that's how you get your thematic mapping. It's similar to when you see a weather report and you see that dark area where the heaviest storms are, and then you see a lighter area and so on and so forth as you go out. Well, that's essentially the same thing as a thematic map. You're getting a more intense color or a specifically identified color showing where the highest intensity is. So that's what they put together. Now, I can't show everybody some of the maps. They'll be available, I believe, to council, but the report that I have here doesn't include those maps because there's disclosure issues on insurance and people not wanting to be publicized if they're repetitive loss or severe repetitive loss property. So I don't have that, but I don't have that for display, but I have seen that, and that's where that went. So this brings us to the prioritized action plan. This is really, I think, where the public, as a general statement, what the advisory committee is going to be interested in, because what are you going to do for me is obviously where we go from there. So this is the prioritized plan that was prepared, again, from Tetra Tech, based on the thematic map. They broke into the neighborhoods into clusters, and I'm going to show you the clusters, but 2015, we did what was called the Madison Roosevelt East Cluster. So anyone that's familiar with the area that we did get funding for, it's primarily the eastern side of Roosevelt and Madison, a little bit onto Pequannock Ave. So that was the area that had really panned out. We put 53 properties that were identified in that cluster. Of those 53 properties, 28 were severe repetitive losses. One was a repetitive loss property. So when you go through all that scoring, they scored a 474, and that was the highest scoring community or area of the township. Based on all the scoring system, based on the criteria for FEMA. So therefore that became the first area that was applied for, and that's the area we're successful with. Of the 53 people, 26 people said they would like to do this. It's not in the plan, but briefly, if you're in the neighborhood and you qualify to get this grant, it doesn't mean that you have to accept it. So as we apply for the grants, let us go out to those people there. You may have read in the paper, some people have said, wait a minute, nobody ever sent me a letter. I didn't know that there was going to be grant money available. Well, the letters are sent out to the specific 53 people. They have meetings, outreach. I think, again, the advisory committee went door to door to try to help people understand, to try to get the word out. That's another problem, is really how to get everybody to engage and to be aware of the opportunity. So at the end of the day, of the 53, we got 26 people that signed on and said, yes, we would like to still be considered. What that means is now once the money's released, we're going to go back to those 26 people and we're going to say, okay, now the money's there, do you really want to go forward? And I won't get into the details of what all that means, but that's essentially the process to get from step to step to step. So the second area pick was identified, again, there's more than one road, but just for the sake of having a discussion of where it is, it was identified as the Voorhees cluster. There were 67 homes located there, 17 SRL, 12 RL, and I really don't have the number of other affected properties, but again, these are also NFIP insurance holders, I should say, and it is at the end. You have to be an NFIP insurance holder to be in the grant program. If you have a private insurance policy or you're covered some other way, or you don't have insurance at all, maybe you don't have a mortgage, you do not qualify for these elevation grants. One of the parameters is you must be an NFIP property, you must maintain your flood insurance, and then if you are selected and you do get some of the grant funding, you are required to carry that insurance in perpetuity and have some other deed restrictions, especially if you're in the floodway. So that brings us to the 2017 grant process period. Those are the numbers. This goes all the way out to 2024. So before I go further on that, What I did is I took this is the map. This does show the polygons of each of the neighborhoods, and that is in the report. This is available for obviously for everybody to see. It's just that we haven't colored the quote thematic. You don't see the red dots, the yellow dots, the intensities of the losses. So this first polygon right here, that's what we refer to as the Madison Roosevelt East neighborhood, if you will. Voorhees is this polygon here. So obviously it has Voorhees, but it's also got Village, and it's got the portions of Romont, it appears here as well. So that's been applied for. Of the, I believe there were 67 opportunities there, only 23 people wanted to take advantage of it. Just as an FYI for the folks that don't know, an SRL property is eligible for 100% reimbursement. That includes architecture, engineering, survey, permits, all the way through construction, through closeout. 100% of that is reimbursed. An RL property is 90% reimbursed, which means the homeowner has to put up 10% of the cost. So herein lies why you say, well, why wouldn't everybody just do it? Well, if you don't want to put the 10% of the cost in, or you don't have the means to put the 10% of the cost in, you may not opt in. And the remaining properties that are not RL and SRL, if you maintain the NFIP insurance, you can get a 75% reimbursement, which means you have to pay 25% of the cost. So simple math, it's $160,000 beginning to end. If you're not one of the high categories, you've got to come up with $40,000. So hence why some people might or might not opt in. So for 2017, again with all the scoring, Beverly Greenwood would be the next section. That's identified right here. That has a lot of Greenwood Ave, and I don't know specifically all the names of the roads in between, but that would be the polygon. Those would be the folks that as soon as they announce the next grant cycle, those would be the ones that would be considered first. Now, why did we go through all this stuff? I think I have a slide here that says why. There we go. Okay, well, this isn't why. But this just gives you a quick summary of essentially what I just said. I'll go through this quick. 2015, we applied for. We received a positive notice. I understand that the agreement between the town, the state, and FEMA is being prepared as we speak, and they will be presenting that agreement in an initial kickoff meeting to be looked at, recommended to council for endorsement, etc. So Mr. Tejan is going to be following through on that and helping make all that happen. We did get approval on the 16, or preliminarily we're told we're approved for 16. But again, as I said with the 15, we just found out the money's now available. We don't know when the 16 money's coming out. I've been led to believe it's going to come out before the end of the year, that we don't have to wait the full cycle. So there's a high probability we'll have the 26 and 23. We could have 49 active homes being elevated if everybody actually opts in. So that's pretty exciting. Obviously with 2017, and then we have why we're doing this. This is part of what that is. When they announce these grant applications, the grant applications are substantial. They require what we call SHPO, which is historic reviews, endangered species, the cost-benefit analysis. We have to know the first floor elevations. We have to be able to identify about how high each home would have to be elevated so that we can analyze the cost better. By having this plan in hand, it allows us to really hit the ground running. So if they only give us 4, 5, 6 weeks to make a grant application, knowing that these are the dwellings and these are the people we're going to deal with, we can get the advisory commission to help us because you have to take, essentially you have to get an elevation certificate, you have to have photographs and a full analysis. It's quite extensive, and I think again the why of why we have this plan is it does prepare us to really get into that right off the bat. So without going back, I don't recall how many are in the potential for 17, but it would be in the neighborhood that I talked about before. Okay, before I ask for any questions, just to recap, I always want to put in and CRS loves this, but to put in a plug for getting flood insurance. Even if you're not in a flood area, I think you should be aware. I think it's about $450. I think it's $450 to get what's a low-risk policy. So if you're on the fringe or your spouse wants a peace of mind, you can get flood insurance for the catastrophe over and above the catastrophes that they anticipate. So it's always good to get the flood insurance, and it qualifies you for everything we've been talking about. Why they do all this is all about risk reduction. This is essentially the cycle. I had another picture in here, but it just talks about what happens if you don't anticipate, you don't want to get lax, you don't want to think that there's no problem. So we really, again, I think as a community are trying to be aggressive to get the funding. We want to make the money available, and we want to make it in people's hands as quick as we can. Just on a sidebar, as we do the kickoff, we're going to put together packages. We have flow charts that we've started to develop, packages for your surveyor, for your permit person, for your architect, so they know, you as a homeowner know what you really need to do. The grants are going to be the grants are directly to the homeowner. They are not to the township. The township is just a facilitator. The homeowner is responsible for following through on all the contracts. We're going to be here to help everybody, but we do that. One of the good reasons why we do this is because we don't have to worry about prevailing wage, and the community, the township itself doesn't have to take on the insurance liability. So that's a very quick version of the plan. The plan is, I believe council was given a copy.
I don't think so.
I think it's loaded on the website.
Okay, yeah, it was either done electronically or loaded, so when you do see the report, it's really only the first 10 pages are the meat. The rest of the report talks a lot about the parameters. If you really want to get into what FEMA has to say about all this in the NFIP program, that's what's in the secondary pages. And it also gives a brief overview of the 2015 and 2016 application. Questions?
Any questions here, council members?
Judge, do we know when the current maps?
Same thing. Okay.
Do we know when the new maps are going to be finalized? Do we have any information on that yet?
I did contact someone that actually claims to know where the status of the maps are. Off topic here a little bit, but they did find errors in the flood maps as we go south, and Willbrook Mall was taken out of the floodway. The floodway is, of course, the greatest concern. My best example is that if your home is now pushed into the floodway, you cannot get an above-ground pool. So these are the types of things that moving from floodplain to floodway would have an effect on the property. So that's how much more the regulations are. They stated that the error was found via the Passaic County. They used a guy named Joe Scupian, who's an absolute expert. There was a 2-foot error somewhere in one of the dams. And also they found that the modeling for, as you go upstream here, for the east ditch and the west ditch is about a foot apart. So when they come together, there's a foot difference, which obviously doesn't work out well. So they've acknowledged the fact that there is an error, and they've acknowledged the fact that they're going to come out with new preliminary maps. What I've been led to understand is the firm that they had doing it, they had some problems, they had some financial issues. They may have been one of the firms that got caught up in all the scams, and now there's a new firm. It's the same firm, same people, but a new firm. And it's quite expensive for them to redo a lot of the analysis. But they did tell me that they expect the newest version of preliminary only maps to come out in about 3 or 4 months. Specifically to your question, I'd really like to give long-winded answers. But 3 or 4 months is going to be the new map coming out. And again, it will be preliminary. And as far as Morris County is concerned, the timeline for the appeal hasn't really started. But we're getting positive response in that there are errors in Passaic. When I spoke to the gentleman, he said, oh yes, I know they're going to be making changes in Lincoln Park, and they're going to be making changes in Wayne. I said, great. How about Pequannock? And he said, well, I really haven't looked at that well. So I am going to be in contact with him a lot to ensure that he's really looking hard at Pequannock.
Yeah, I was going to say, Joe, you mentioned Lincoln Park, they're Morris County, and I realized, see, one of the things we didn't like is that they're doing it by county as opposed to regionally. So like, if they're already looking at Lincoln Park, they should at least be looking at
Because
Pequannock.
there was a meeting for Passaic County, but there was
Right.
no meeting for
Right.
Morris County.
That's right.
And the other thing we've talked about in the flood committee meetings, and Joe was at the last one to discuss, one of the things we were talking about doing is an outreach to Congressman Freelandheisen, because the way they're making the town do the planning with the maps is they're making us look at worst-case scenario. So if you were not in a floodplain before, but you're going into a floodplain, right, you're supposed to be planning off of that, and vice versa. So, if you're currently
What Mayor's saying is that,
So-
if you're a property that might be in the floodway,
or flood.
even though we know that there's mistakes in the way they determine where that floodway is, if you're on the fringe or the edge of the floodway, if you come to our office for a permit, I have to look at it, and the construction official has to look at it as if you were in the floodway. So what's nonsensical about that is that they know that there's an error, but the DEP and FEMA are making us use whichever map's more restrictive. So it belies logic that we would use a map that we know is incorrect. So the difficult battle really is to identify all the hydraulics and the multi-million dollars and monies they've spent on the studies and the computers and all the experts. For us to debate that is going to be very difficult. But it isn't hard for us to debate the fact that the maps are wrong because everyone's already admitted that they're wrong. So the position to Mr. Freelandheisen would be, why are we being forced to use these preliminary maps if in fact we know they're wrong? So, I may deny a permit to someone who's on the edge of a floodway fringe, using the pool as an example, but we may find 6 months or a year from now, they're going to say, well, oops, that property wasn't in the flood. So what does that really do to the residents? What does that do to people as a family? What does that do to folks that are trying to do things with their home? So it does really create a hardship on the individuals. And then when you look beyond that, you can go to the commercial, which is a whole other story as well, because a lot of our commercial district in town is on the fringe of the floodway. So it's really important that we get the floodway identified properly. Obviously, we don't want to do anything that's going to cause more hardship and more flooding to everybody. However, we really do want to use the data and the maps properly so we can enforce properly.
So I guess the idea is if it's going to take another year or so before these maps come out, perhaps letting us just keep using the maps we've been using all along as opposed to doing
So
that
that's what we're
restrictive
asking.
map.
We're asking,
So,
being specific.
to see if we
want
can't
to
get a
ask
push.
The preliminary maps, we put on the back burner, and we just use the adopted maps. Whatever the adopted maps are, we use the old traditional maps until such time as all the science folks and everything else have vetted that out.
Have you reached out, Joe? Have you written to anyone about that yet?
We have, as a committee.
No, but have you written to any of the congressmen or?
No, we did
Freelandheisen.
with one of the assembly people originally. We met multiple times. Mr. Gronkowski was involved in that, representing Lincoln Park, to the extent Mountain Plains, Riverdale, whatever. So there's a group of folks that have been meeting to put the strategy together. Everything I just talked about isn't just my thing, but it is something that we're looking at. We've been told that we will have an audience with Mr. Freelandheisen, so we're preparing maps and some written documents. So I didn't want to go in there and say, okay, well, hey, this is what we want. So we've been using the GIS. If you stop at our office, for example, we've done overlay maps now that show the old floodway, the new floodway. The polygons show all the homes and commercial businesses that sit in the new polygon. So we're able to say, these are how many people we had that were not in the floodway. Now all these people we have in the floodway. These are how many people are being affected. We want to document in writing really what we want to have as the final outcome so that he thoroughly can grasp it without understanding all the science and all the business I've been talking around with the background. So yes, we are actively moving on that. Mr. Holberg was at the precipice of making that happen when he came ill. So, but we are still moving forward with that and we've been in contact. So it is happening. It's going to happen before the middle of the summer, I would say, for absolute sure.
Good. And I have another question regarding the grants that are, 90%, 100%, all that. Is there anything in the grants for, I guess the people have to vacate their home for a certain point? Is there anything for living expenses or they have to?
There is.
There is. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, within $4.5 million, we're talking 26 parcels. So without doing the math, it's $180,000 per parcel.
How long are they out of their home about?
There's an amount in there for that, and I think it's a 6 or 8 week allocation.
Okay.
There's an allocation. The way these grants are, and I've taken I've got a lot of training, if you will, on how to administer these grants. You can't ask for more. We just have to document exactly why we're asking for more. So, there are opportunities. If someone has a real problem and has to be out of their house longer, I believe we can get additional subsidy for relocation.
And do they have to put that money out, or is it reimbursable, or how's it work?
Reimbursable.
Okay.
What we're trying to do is we're getting elevation companies. I've spoken to a few throughout New Jersey and actually some out of state that are willing to do some financing. They would essentially charge more, but not get paid for 90 or 120 days. So it's a package I'm putting together. When I talk about survey, permitting, engineering, in that package I'm telling the consultant that they can expect payment in 90 days or more, and that they'll be reimbursed upon receipt of the reimbursement. So we're trying to lower the cost for the resident to have to put out of pocket. So we got people that are willing, hopefully, to finance. We're going to try to keep the soft costs as low as we can. Even the building permits are in there, so we don't have to collect the building permits, but there's the monies for the building permits are in there. So we can ask, I'm sure Mr. Grant will be asking that he can delay the payment of these permits. So there's a lot of things that are in the works. I'll probably be here doing another presentation to council once we
Get the financing part.
Yeah, get everything on the table.
So
we're always open, obviously, to any suggestions and recommendations. People that might have some ideas.
We think that's going to be a successful way to go, though, is directly through the elevation companies. We think we're going to be able to go that route.
For the financing.
As opposed to a local bank we talked about.
Yeah, there's banks. I mean, right now, I don't know if this is really fair, but the way I look at it is when I spoke to some of these elevation companies, they really, if one of those companies said, hey, yes, we want to do all Pequannock, well, they're not going to do 26 simultaneously.
Right.
They're not geared up for that, but they can do maybe 6 or 7. So that means I'm going to need, or the town's going to need multiple vendors to do the elevation. So some of them may have a more attractive financing package than someone else. All the cost of financing is in the grant. So we're not hurting a particular homeowner. However, the ones that are willing to finance 100%, I would probably lean towards the 75% grants, where the homeowner has to put more out of pocket and or can't afford the reimbursement, and vice versa. So we'll work with we hope to sit down with every homeowner individually and say these are the choices, and let the homeowners tell us what their issues are and how we can help. So.
Joe, I had something else for you, Joe. When you talked before about, like, in how the first phase, there was, say, 53 homes identified, 26 homeowners said that they would be interested. What happens now if some of those people before didn't opt in, but now, they're new homeowners or they want to? Will they be able to get on a future list?
Well, in thinking about that...
because we're talking about different areas. Yeah.
Right. Well, first couple things that we believe to be true is, one is, as you all know, there's a home for sale or 2 that have been elevated, and we're starting to get a better price picture of what the increase in value is.
Under contract.
Just in my office alone, I can tell that the word's getting out that, oh yes, indeed, it is very much worth the while to elevate the home. So yes, I expect that you're going to have a lot of people that had insecurities, didn't know if they could do it financially, they're going to want to opt back in. So how are we going to handle that? What we've talked about doing is, as we go through these neighborhoods, for example, we're doing Greenview or whatever that is next, as we get close to neighborhoods that have already been done, what we want to try to do is to pick in and make opportunities available that are a little bit outside the polygons that we've described. Now, the polygons are fixed lines, but if someone a half a block away says, I didn't the first time, how about this time? We can expand those polygons to include some of the overlap. What we're not sure we can do is to say, okay, well, we're doing Greenview, but now somebody in Voorhees wants to opt in, because that takes us out of our cluster area. So I think we can expand the cluster where we want to do it, somewhat managed. So again, I think a lot's going to pan out. Once we get rolling and more people see what it's all about, I think we'll have a lot more, planning ability. And, we've got our GIS system, which we haven't done a presentation on either, but we've got a lot of this in the GIS system now for the town, where we're able to do these maps, and I think you'll see the maps that we're preparing for Mr. Korean guys. They're actually quite impressive. They're not hard to produce. So we're going to be able to really analyze, we'll know what homes have been in or out. If somebody calls and says, hey, I want to be in next time, we can put that right in our GIS system, so that when we go to the next phase of analysis, it's going to pop right up that we don't forget that Mrs. Smith called a year ago and said they would be interested. So we have a lot of tools in-house that we're still building the data for, but we're really far along. So you're going to see a lot of, council will be seeing a lot of fruits of that.
We won't have to start drawing on the 2015 funds before they announce the 2016 funds being available, will we? Like, in other words, the way they roll it out, do you have to start using the first round before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple complications that we're going to try to adjust to with the grants, because one of the things that's unfortunate is the way the federal grant system works is that those 26 people now, let's assume we know that we're going to have some that are going to opt out.
Right.
So say we get a quarter of them. So say we get, say, 7. If 7 people decide they don't want in, we don't get that money. It's gone. We cannot say, okay, let's go to these 3 people. Oh, this one didn't apply for whatever reason. Why don't we just shift it over there? We cannot do that.
We can't add them.
We cannot. So the way the grants have to be put together is that we have to have people that are sort of willing, and I won't say we twist their arm, but we have to get people that aren't the core people requesting in the grant, but we're saying, here's 3 more people that might be in, and then we put in our grant application why they're not in and how they could be, because then that gives us, then it does give you the ability to transfer the money to a different site. They're very specific, and I asked that question specifically. So you can go to contingencies, but they have to be in the application. And on the application, you can't go to the contingency. So that's where we are right now with the first ones that went out, because there's no contingency. And the other thing I'm thinking is maybe we do the contingency outside the polygon, or the contingency becomes the people that are in the old grant cycle. So when we go for 217, maybe we add 2, 3, 4 on the contingency, because it's not going to be in our cost-benefit analysis, it's not going to be in the polygon analysis, but yet it could be available for funding. So I think I have to speak to Tetra Tech to make sure it's not going to cost us points, but I mean, there are ways I think that we can start to do this. So I mean, really, once we get started, we're going to want to start finding out from the community on who might want to get in that's in these polygon in these areas that prior did not get the opportunity.
Well, thank you. Anybody else? All right. Appreciate it. Does the public have any questions for Joe? No?
Good presentation.
Yeah, very good.
Oh.
Well, thank you. Very informative.
Now, we were talking about that $10,000.
I don't know.
Okay, moving right along. I want to make sure there was no one else in the audience that wanted to do reports from volunteers. I kind of cut off right after John and went right to Joe. Louise, did you want to give a report?
It's okay. I'll squeeze in. Hi, Louise Marchese of 16 Rowland Road, representing Flood Advisory Committee along with the Economic Development Committee. Flood Advisory is in the process of putting together a public event. That event will be on April the 24th, which is a Monday, 7:30 in the evening. It'll be held at Friendship Hall. So far, we've been advertising on Channel 77. I hope to have it also printed in the Trends, and I'm happy to say, thanks to the help of Carol Marsh and Michelle Levine, the postcards went out. I brought them over here to Town Hall after 3 o'clock on Friday, and yesterday morning I received my postcard. So postcards have gone out to 1,200 or so in the flood community to make them aware of the event. We plan on having about 10 speakers, so we'll be covering a lot that night, but they won't be overwhelmed, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be happy with new updates and new information. EDC, Economic Development Committee, I let John be the bad guy. So I'm not going to ask you for $200,000. I'm not going to ask you for anything. All I'm going to ask you is, we have a new business that just opened up at 155 Newark Pompton Turnpike. It's called the White Birch Candle Company. It's a beautiful store. If you have nothing else to do, just go in and browse. The items there are unique. The business is owned by Megan and Jeff Van Penen, and Jeff does woodcraft, and as I said, the items, everything in the store is unique. It's nothing that you've ever seen before, so if you have nothing to do, just get in there and browse. 155 Newark Pompton Turnpike on the Pequannock end of town. At our last meeting, as Joe Golden just mentioned, he came in and went over maps with us so that we could see business-wise the business districts that are in the flood area right now and what could be done about it, and et cetera. We're still talking about zoning changes. We want to do anything that can improve the business districts by making some zoning changes along the way. As John mentioned, we're going to fall into subcommittees. I spend a lot of time down at the area, the city of Summit, and the redeveloper that has done a tremendous amount of work down there is Co-Urbanize, and I'm contacting them, and possibly they'll be able to help us, even though they're working on cities, they may be interested in a community of our size. And that's about all that's going on, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Louise.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Volunteers? That's it? Okay, we'll move on. Now I'm going to open it to public comment. If Alberta, would you like to come up and address the podium? We'll open it up to public comment now. Just state your name and address for the record. Is that too long?
Is this on? Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank the mayor and council for the beautifully cleaned rug. It looks great. You did that, Chris?
Yes.
Good for you. I've only been waiting. How long?
His hands and knees.
You don't even know how long I've been waiting. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I just have a question for you, Mayor. Have you had any input from the committee on the Parks and Rec and the Boys and Girls Club?
Input regarding...
We haven't had any discussions lately.
Input from Parks and Rec and...
The combination of Parks and Rec and...
We have not had anything, discussions recently. We were...
Do you have any information about it?
We were presented with a proposal to look over, but we have not discussed any further.
Right, the proposal was for us to kick in a bunch of money to purchase a building, and of course, I fell out over that one.
I'm happy about that.
Bad idea.
Right.
Yeah.
I think most of the council, I won't speak for everybody, but kind of indicated the same thing, and that's why we haven't had more discussions about it.
Yeah, we haven't had more discussions. We will probably have more discussions on it, but not, we were taken back by the proposal.
Well, I think that the Parks and Rec committee should have some information given to them. I mean, we sit there every month, and we're looking for some information.
Yeah.
So,
are they asking for information?
We'll regroup
yes,
on
we
it.
are.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
no information to give.
Every month.
This is my take on it, and the council can jump in. I was actually, that's one of the things on my list that I was going to bring up to Chris, is it's something we need to decide, okay, what are we going to do with this? Discussion, open it up to, the committee, Parks and Rec, get their input, what have you. So it's something we need to decide. Are we just closing the door, or are we going to, I think more discussion needs to be had, and we need to look at alternatives, so we should probably share the information.
I don't know if the committee has met since the last
I don't think they have.
Right, I think they got such a negative vibe from us that's why they haven't.
So you'll hear more on it. It is on
All right,
the list
thank you.
to move forward.
But Chris, thank you for the rug. Now listen, I'll give you the key to my house. But thank you very, very much, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else, member of the public, would you like to come forward? No? Okay. All right. With that being said, we'll move on to public hearings. There are no public hearings scheduled for this evening. So next, we're going to move on to ordinances for introduction. Carol, if I can ask you to read the first ordinance, or the only ordinance.
Yes, this is ordinance number 2017-02, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of the dedication of a right-of-way known as Dunn Place.
Okay, I'm going to ask, Chris, do you have any background on this ordinance that you'd like to share?
Dunn Place
Please
now
be quiet.
Dunn Place now becomes part of the municipal road system. Previously, Dunn Place was an unimproved road serving two properties and accessing township-owned property. By way of this dedication of the right-of-way, becomes a municipal road.
And I think we discussed this, the council has discussed it in the past.
We have discussed it in the past. Everybody knows where Dunn Place is. Any comments from council? All right, can I have a motion to introduce the ordinance on the first reading?
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance number 2017-02.
Can I have a second? Okay, Ryan. And where are we on this?
Roll call.
Roll call, I'm sorry.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Ms. Winterfield?
Yes.
Mayor Florence Lynch?
Yes. All right, next on the agenda is ordinance 2017-04. Right?
03.
03.
You skipped one there, Melissa.
My book is wrong.
That's possible.
Blame it on the book.
Can I ask Carol to read that, please?
This is ordinance number 2017-03, an ordinance establishing minimum and maximum salaries and pay rates for designated officials, employees of the Township of Pequannock for the year 2017.
All right, Chris, would you like to just kind of give everybody a little update on this one?
Sure. I believe Mr. Holberg sent everyone a council update briefly explaining the salary ordinance. However, the salary ordinance has not been updated since 2013. So in this ordinance, the ordinance provides succession planning for several senior level positions that will potentially retire in the next few years. It also provides competitive salaries for employees to bring in top talent over the next few years. The salary ordinance includes new titles based on a New Jersey League of Municipalities salary survey. These new salary increases for minimum and maximum also come from surrounding communities in various size and population, similar to Pequannock.
All right, are there any comments on this ordinance?
question.
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Is there a reason why certain ones are bold and...
Yeah.
They're changed.
They're the
Yeah,
changes.
so the bolded are changes.
Got it.
Yeah, some have slight changes to minimum and maximum, and I guess some have slight changes.
To title.
Some would be on title as well, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Can we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance 2017-03.
I'll second it.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Ms. Winterfield?
Yes.
Mayor Florence Lynch?
Yes. All right, next ordinance for introduction is ordinance 2017-04, and I'll ask Carol to read that.
Ordinance number 2017-04 is an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank in accordance with NJSA 40A:4-45, chapter, or paragraph 14.
Okay, Chris, did you have any comments on this that you wanted to just highlight?
So this introduces the 2017 municipal budget. The budget this year calls for a $36 increase to the average home in town, which equates to roughly $3 a month. The budget will be available for review in the clerk's office for a 28-day period, at which time on April 25th, residents and interested parties are able to ask questions.
Chris, are you sure we're talking the same thing? This is ordinance to exceed the municipal budget
It's
appropriation
the cap
limits and to
bank.
establish a cap bank, which we do every year.
My apologies, my apologies.
You just took care of the next one.
You took care of the next one. I was wondering myself.
Oh, yes, we do that every year.
Yeah.
Right,
So this one was for
which one are we doing, 4 or 5?
Let's do
4, because 4 is just Something we do
All right,
every year.
let's do that, because we were going to actually,
Yes.
yeah. Sorry about that, guys.
I'll make
All
a
right.
motion to accept
keep 'em in line, don't worry.
2017-04.
It's 2017-04, and this is the ordinance to
Yeah.
exceed the municipal budget
Councilman Cole
appropriation.
made
I'll make a motion.
Second. Oh, I beat you.
Okay, roll call?
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan? Yep. Ms. Winterfield?
Yes.
Mayor Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Okay, Chris now explain 05.
No, it's not 05, it's a resolution.
Oh, it's a resolution, oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, we jumped
That's
right to
what,
resolution.
well, that's what screwed us up,
Yeah.
because I said
It's a
ordinance.
resolution that acts like an ordinance.
Right.
Who can explain it?
So it's a resolution, right?
All right, so we're going to do resolutions for approval, and I believe we were going to, we were going to do this separately, introduce the 2017 municipal budget separately, and then move to the remaining resolutions rather than lumping them together. So Carol, can I ask you to go through that?
Yes, this is Resolution R 2017-78, approving introduction of the 2017 municipal budget for the Township of Pequannock, County of Morris for the fiscal year 2017. And for the record, be it resolved that the following statements of revenues and appropriations shall constitute the municipal budget for the year 2017. Be it further resolved that said budget will be published in the Suburban Trends in the issue of April 9th, 2017. Notice is hereby given that the budget and the tax resolution, which is being approved by the governing body this evening, will be scheduled for a hearing on April 25th, 2017 at 7 p.m. in the municipal building, at which time and place objections to said budget and said tax resolution for the year 2017 may be presented by taxpayers or other interested persons.
And Carol, that was the second attachment that you sent out that wasn't part of the budget,
Is
correct?
that the resolution?
The budget resolution is actually the packet.
Right.
What I read is
all
on
right.
page 2 or 3.
Right. Okay.
It's considered the resolution's title.
Okay.
Right, did everyone get a chance to review it?
Yeah,
Right, so
got it.
what
Okay.
resolution is it, 79?
It's 78.
But it's not in the packet, it was the
Right.
second
It was a
attachment that
separate
we
email.
received. Yeah,
Okay, yes, we got that earlier today. Yes.
right,
But it's the same as what you were discussing in the
Right,
budget
the
work.
same, right.
right.
I'll make a
Eventually
motion
we'll
to
sign
approve
that.
2017-78.
I'll second it.
Wait, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Do over.
What's the matter?
It's not a do-over, it's just a delay. Mr. Cole, Mr. Phelan.
No, it was Mr. Cole and Mr. Phelan, right?
I said that.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Hurd?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan? Yep. Ms. Winterfield?
Yes.
Mayor Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Introduction of the budget is approved.
Okay.
Moving right along.
Moving right along. Next item on the agenda, we're going to go over the rest of the resolutions. Carol, can I ask you to read those?
Yes, now continue with Resolution 2017-79, adopting an extended 2017 temporary budget. 2017-80, authorizing tax office refunds, overpayments, or cancellations. And Resolution 2017-81, approving payment of the itemized claims as set forth on the March 23rd, 2017 bill list.
All right, do we have any comments or questions from council?
I'm good.
All right, is there a motion to adopt?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolutions R 2017-79 through R 2017-81.
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call?
Mr. Hurd?
Yes?
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Ms. Winterfield?
Yes.
Mayor Florence Lynch?
Yes. All right. Items for discussion, I don't think we have any on the agenda for this evening, is that correct? And reports and notices, we didn't have any reports and notices? Nope. Okay, no reports or notices this evening. We're going to go right into the manager's report. If I can ask Chris to do that?
First is the bond award. The bond auction for the Route 23 sewer project was held on March 22nd. Roosevelt and Cross was the auction winner at an interest rate of 3.044608% for a total bid amount of $21,042,031.50. $1.50. Shred Day has been scheduled for Saturday, June 3rd, 2017, from 9 until noon in the Town Hall parking lot. The Martin Berry House, the 2017 construction documents grant has been submitted. The grant application totals $65,000 with a $13,000 match from the township. An award is anticipated to occur midsummer if approved in its entirety by the County Preservation Board. Carry in, carry out. I know I mentioned this last time, but this is just a reminder. This goes into effect this Saturday, April 1st, 2017. In all parks, trash receptacles will be removed from all parks and recreational areas for the exception of PV Park and where concessions are served. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Ryan, can I ask you for your report?
Sure. Okay. First thing we have is this Wednesday, April 12th, 2017, Chilton Medical Center. It's a help reverse opioid overdose, free Narcan training. We do have to RSVP to Phyllis, I'm not even going to try to say her last name, Mincharusi. You can give it a phone call too. It's 973-625-1998, extension 18. It is limited to 20 people, but it is for April 12th. I think it's a good thing. We all had our Riverbank cleanup. Everybody has their email that came through, and that is this Saturday, April 1st, between 9 and 1 p.m. Congratulations, Melissa. You're going to be there all day, right?
I will. Who else is going to join me? Are the rest of the council going to be there?
I'm not going to be there all day.
No, but if you can come
I'm
for a
going to
while.
be there from 9 to 10:30. I signed up already.
All right.
And signing up at Senior House, correct?
Yeah, you can,
That's where you show up.
you can actually just, I'm going to send, I'll send Rudy an email and just said all council members are going to come for a period of time, and he can figure out where he's going to use us. Or you can sign up through Parks and Rec, or that was really at Parks and Rec, or just email Rudy. But
And
he does
everybody's meeting at Senior House at before 9 o'clock,
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
Last thing I have is the Chris Heron story, which is going to be very interesting. Here you go. Pass it along. Date is Monday, April 3rd at 7 p.m. Pequannock Township High School Auditorium. You do have to register through Eventbrite. It is on Facebook. It's sponsored by Community Partners for Hope. It's going to be very interesting. Hopefully everybody can be there. It is limited to, I believe, 300.
No, 750, there's roughly 500 people already signed up for it.
Wow.
That's where I got the 300 from. There's only 300 left, so sign up quick. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Rich?
Okay, as you know, 2 of our volunteer firemen passed away last week. And between the 2 of them, they had over 100 years of service for the town. Ralph Clark and Harry Ampthorne. That's a sad point. Shade Tree had a meeting last night. Ramapo comes up under discussion. I think sooner or later, something has to be done with engineering work or whatever over there. Trees have to be cut down. The sidewalk's going to have to be redone. The sewers are going to have to be redone. There's a whole bunch of things going on over there. But one of the interesting things I found out is that the emerald ash borer is slowly coming this way, and eventually will take out all our ash trees, and incidentally, all the trees on Ramapo are ash trees. And I have an ash tree in my yard.
Is the report ready to be reviewed? Can we read the report? Is it still in
I
draft?
have the report. They did not make the corrections to it. I offered to have my secretary do it.
I see we paid for the report.
I offered to have my secretary do the corrections if they can't get it done by this week, because I understand they need to come in front of the council for approval on the plan.
Maybe we should hold their check until we do what they're supposed to do.
I don't think legally we can do that.
I know.
But I could ask Holly, can you do that? No.
So these are all the
Who wrote the
towns that
contract?
have the board?
These are all the way?
These are all the towns that have that board?
Yes, it's slowly coming this way.
So when you get that updated, you'll be able to share it with us once you...
Yeah, hopefully I'll get it. I mean, I asked last month for the...
I have a question for you. It may be a question for Shade Tree, but I guess it has to do with our individual homeowners, like tree ordinance. Someone had reached out to me several times asking about all the trees that got taken down on private property on the corner of, I believe it's private property, on the corner of Keachbriar and Sunset. And they were asking about a tree ordinance, like...
Yeah, they took a lot of trees down.
Can you just go and take down as many trees as you want? And I told them I would look into it, but they were questioning why all those trees were able to be taken down.
I think, my personal opinion is, I think we do have to have some kind of tree ordinance, but on the opposite side of that, do not over-govern.
Right. Well, that's why I was
Don't tell me what I can do with my property.
Right, yeah. I was just going to ask if we have a tree ordinance.
But we did speak about that at our training at the Environmental Commission. And they do have recommendations for ordinances.
Right, but you got to be careful that you don't become over-government.
It talks about property that's over half of an acre or an acre. You do it based on size.
I spoke to the neighbor and she spoke to the property owner that you're referring to, and from what I was told, there was a boar or some sort of insect that destroyed the majority of the trees, and that's why she took them down.
That's what I heard.
Everyone thinks it's for a subdivision. She only has 2 acres, and it's a 2 acre, you need 2 acres to subdivide, so she's not going to do anything there, so.
Okay.
She was very upset that she had to take them down.
Yeah, but that could cause a problem with erosion, especially where that is, and we've had problems in that area before.
I don't think the ash borer, or whatever it's called, is there. The emerald ash borer is in town yet. I think in another 2 years it will be, but I don't think that was the reason why those trees were taken down.
Okay.
My personal opinion.
All right. Thank you. Kathy?
Well, as Tom Andrea had said, we went to the training. Tom went to the advanced training. I stayed at the beginners. So we have yet to compare notes. But there's a lot of good suggestions, a lot of good ideas, but I'll reserve my opinion until we get to meet and talk about them with the committee. Good. But it was really good training. It was very extensive, and there was a gentleman there from, I guess he was an engineer from the DEP.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and he explained a lot about the whys of things. So it made a lot of sense when he was explaining it. So we'll share a lot of that at another meeting. And that's it. Oh, one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have a schedule? Maybe we float in some dates for the Martin Berry
Mr.
tour?
Grant's been on vacation. I haven't been able to check with him on how many people can actually go in due to safety concerns, but he'll be back Thursday.
Okay.
I'll check with him.
Okay, great.
Good. Dave, you have anything?
Fair Housing met last Wednesday. Evelyn has been doing a great job. We have had a number of residents that live in Fair Housing attend those meetings, the last couple meetings. So it's been interesting. Evelyn is working her way through the rules and the regulations, but I think she's doing a great job. Unfortunately, I will not be at the Riverwalk cleanup. I am a high school umpire. Opening day is Saturday, so I will be in Morristown at 10 o'clock. If I call enough strikes, maybe I'll get there at the end. A plug for Operation Smile. They're having a fashion show tomorrow at the high school in the auditorium. There's a number of kids at the high school. There's probably like 75 kids that are part of that club. They do a great job. I think there's 7 of them going on mission trips this summer. So I think the main reason they're having it is to try to help fund some of these trips that is out of pocket for the kids that are going. The First Reformed Church across the street is having a community service day, and there will be a group at Greenview Park. There'll be a group at the Martin Berry House doing all outside cleaning, and we'll be around some of the other parts of town and even out of town doing that. So that's all I have.
Great, thanks. I just have a couple of things because most of the committee people got up and said most of the things I was going to say, but here's a library board update. The library edition bid will be advertised April 9th, and they'll have a bid opening date of April 25th. So the town's been working on that. Tomorrow, I know, is the deadline for the proposals for the skateboard park, and then they'll open those.
Have they been received, Chris?
Holly, have you received any? No, we haven't received.
Not one?
No.
Well, okay. Let's see, we talked about it.
So it'll be easy to decide then, right?
Yeah, right, really easy. Short meeting.
Most of the other stuff here we've discussed. I just wanted to remind everybody again on the mayor's river cleanup. I believe there's about 70 volunteers that have signed up so far, so let's try to hit 100. And I do want to thank, since I see Tom Andrea in the front row, I want to thank the Environmental Commission, Tom Andrea, and especially Rudy Steinthal for, heading that up and getting it together. Ryan mentioned the Narcan training already, so I don't have to do that. And everything else has been mentioned, so I am done. It's just a reminder about that flood info seminar, April 24th, 7:30, is across the street. All right, if no one else has anything else, I'm going to go into public comment. Anyone from the public wish to come up? Mike Bertuna, we missed you. Come on up.
Are you waving at your mother-in-law?
Tom. Mike Bertuna, 8 Reynolds Road. Speaking of over-governing, I received a letter about the town wanting to come into my property to inspect my basement for a illegal sump pump hookup. I have a basement, I do not have a sump pump. My problem with this is, and I know when you passed the ordinance, I was here and said the same thing, is I feel that you are violating our Fourth Amendment rights of demanding to come into our homes. Now, I know you'll say that you're not demanding it, but you're threatening us with a $600 yearly fee if we don't allow you to come into our house.
I think what happened, Mike, because so much flow is going through the TVSA during the flooding times, that they want to make sure that people are not pumping their basements into the sewer system. And that's what started the whole thing, because ultimately we, as residents who have sewers, end up paying for all this water being pumped into the sewer. I made sure that I spent $1,500 making sure that my system was not being pumped into the sewers. So, I fought over the whole thing, and afterwards I said, well, you know what? It's the right thing to do.
Well, I understand the reason why you're doing it. I don't think you're correct doing it. I mean, I don't know if the town has even reached out to people before threatening them with fines that you would, to let them know you shouldn't be hooked up to the sewer line.
Well, I find it interesting that you're the first person I've heard of.
Well, and that's what I was wondering.
Did everyone get those letters?
Has this been going out? Everyone I've asked, no one else has gotten a letter.
They're going out in phases, because there's only one inspector that's going out in the town, so there was no sense of sending them out to every person that is hooked up to sewers. They've been going out in phases. He's been doing the inspections during those phases, and then the next round of letters goes out, because I haven't gotten my letter yet, but friends of mine have gotten the letter.
But are the phases done by mailing address, or are they just done by
sections of town.
Okay,
So eventually they're going to come to my house too.
Yes, everyone that has
But
a
you're saying
sewer
your
will get
neighbors
the
didn't
letter.
even get it?
Everybody
Well, I
has a
haven't
sewer.
talked to all many, but everyone I've asked if they've gotten a letter.
Kathy, are you going to get a letter?
I don't have a basement.
But it says you have to contact regardless if you don't have a basement or sump pump. So, I mean, regardless, my point is that
I hope they don't.
it's the Fourth Amendment rights that the government just can't say we want to come into your house, and that's the ordinance that you guys passed.
Right, but we don't have to come in your house.
You
don't have to.
You're sending it.
You don't have to let us in.
Otherwise, no. My choices would be a $600 fine a year for, God willing, if I'm here 30 more years, that's like $18,000.
It's not a fine.
Or I don't pay.
It's not a fine.
And my house goes into a lien, and maybe then you take my house, or
Go ahead, Bob, you answer it.
you violate my rights.
Let the attorney answer this one.
Yeah, it isn't a fine. What it comes down to is, the idea is that if we don't inspect, we have to assume that in fact you are putting it into the sewer system, and that's contributing to the cost of the sewer system. So the inspection really, you can look at it as a fine, but you can also look at it as a reduced fee. Somebody's got to pay for the water going into the sewer system, and that was the concept behind it. So it's I get your point, there's duress, but that's different than forcing it in fine. That's just what it is. And if there was another way, if anybody wants to suggest another way, we certainly hashed it out and tried to come up with
I
different
fought like
ways.
cat and dog over that one.
We could not come up with another way.
You have to make sure you find the
this
ones
for
that
sure.
are doing it, so you would hope that everybody's doing it for the better good and would just
And when we,
let you in.
when we passed the ordinance, there was an article in the Trends about it, because I had several neighbors say to me, "You're not allowed to do that?" I said, "No, you're not allowed to do that."
Right.
Like I said, my point is, I understand why, and I have a sewer, so not that I don't think you guys are going to reduce my cost, but I think it's better for the town if people aren't doing that. My point is that it's one of our rights as Americans, the Fourth Amendment, and I feel like you guys have crossed the line with that.
What's our incentive to get people not to pump water into the sewer? Can you answer that one for me?
I can't. But does that mean you should take my rights as an American? Because you got to make sure someone...
You don't have to let us in.
You don't have to let us in. We just assume you're using it.
Okay.
But thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you. Anything else?
Yes, another thing. So the past few years, I've noticed that the fishing contest and Little League parade is the same day. And do you think that maybe it can be worked out where it's not the same exact day? Same time, I mean?
Little League is a privately run organization. They should check with Parks and Rec.
Right.
But obviously, in the past, they haven't. I believe it also, the fishing contest is centered around the day after the county comes and stocks all of our, no? When do they stock?
Parks and Rec stocks. Opening day is a statewide thing. It's trout season. It's opening day for the whole entire state.
Okay.
You have to have a trout stamp on your license. And as far as Little League, that is, you're absolutely correct. Again, that's Little League rules.
It's just one of those things.
So if you want coordination, it's more like Little League would have to, right.
It's not going to happen.
Little League would have to
The state is not going to change their opening day at trout season.
Right, and Little League's not changing theirs.
So you gotta choose.
It's unfortunate, trust me.
Yeah. No, I understand that. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, next on the agenda, I think we have minutes to approve, do we not?
Yes.
Okay, February 28th minutes. The only comment I had before we approve these, Carol, is under reports from volunteers. When Louise gave her report, you wrote here, outreach event for members of the council. It's really an outreach event for residents, and the council can come. It's not.
Nope, you're absolutely correct.
So I would correct that.
No matter how many times we read that, you always let one slip. I can correct that right now.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
With change? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and we have nothing on closed session tonight?
I have nothing for closed session.
All right, so we can skip to adjournment, I guess, right?
Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.